Okay, ladies and gents, welcome back to part 9 of the Mr. Vintage radio control build. As you can see, and if you've been following the previous videos so far, you can see that the fuselage is now taking shape and we're swiftly moving on to soldering the undercarriage gear together. Now this is a task that many people struggle with, but the main reason they struggle is because they haven't got the parts clean enough, or they're not using enough temperature with the soldering iron, etc. So I'll just zoom in and show you what we're trying to do. If I can sort of focus in on that. That's a bit better. So you can see the two halves of the undercarriage legs have been brought together. They've been soldered up, and I've bound them with copper wire and soldered over the top to make a super strong joint. So that's what we're trying to do in today's video. I'll just show you the equipment that we're going to use. So we've got the flux, we have got the copper wire that we're going to bind. That's approximately 1 mil in diameter. We've got the solder, we've got a sponge that's been wetted. We've got two pairs of pliers there, the needle nose and the normal side cutters. We've got a wire brush, and then I've got my old faithful soldering iron. Now the soldering iron is a Weller, that's the make, and it's 175 watts. So as you can see, it's quite a beast. It's also got a 16 mil chisel tip end on it, which is ideal for doing this sort of a job. So I'll come into the joint that we're actually going to solder today. That's the two halves of the legs brought together. I've thoroughly cleaned them before I've actually, brought them together with some emery paper. Just shine it up, as you can see how it was here, sort of tarnished, and now it's nice and bright. That is one of the trade secrets that I'll give you. Get everything spotless. And you won't go too far wrong. So I've cleaned it all up. The first part of the job is we're going to flux that joint, and then before we actually get to the binding part, we're going to solder that joint together. Now this will hold the joint together, so when we bind it, the two legs aren't sort of moving around, and hopefully we can make a sort of neater job of it. So I'm going to put the camera up now and see if we can zoom in on the actual joint. If I can do that, that's not too bad. If I can zoom in on the joint, you can see all my junk in the background. Sorry about that, but hopefully that's sort of the best I can do, really. So first of all, we get our flux and we just dab a little bit. We don't go mad here on the actual joint that we're going to solder. Try and get it all the way around, and in that crease, get it all the way around if you can. But like I say, you don't have to go mad, but I advise you, once you get into this stage, that you don't actually touch it with your fingers, because the grease on your fingers can actually make the joint go a bit horrible. So we've got the two halves together. We've got the flux on, and now we get the beast of the soldering iron. As you can see, that tip is quite dirty there. I don't know if you can actually see that. So I'm just going to give that a little clean with the wire brush first, just to shine it up a bit, get any oxidization off. And then I'm going to just introduce a little bit of solder to it. Move my flux out of the way. As you can see, that is really hot. So just stick a little bit of solder on, and then the name of the game is to try and heat up that joint. You can see the flux is now melting, which it will do. And we just touch it with the solder and see if we can get some to flow, which I have there. Hopefully you can see that. All we're doing is tacking the two halves together at this stage. Now I'll just give that a little clean up like so. I'm going to just give it a little clean up with some emery, take the oxidisation off. Again, we don't have to go too mad now because we've already done it, but I just want to improve it slightly. We're going to then put a bit more flux on, like so, and a little bit underneath, a little bit in the joint, and then we're going to start wrapping the copper wire around. First of all, I usually put it into that groove there because it just holds it better. Then I start to wrap. Now when you wrap, the name of the game is to get those coils together as neatly as possible. Try not to overlap them because it looks awful, but get them sort of tightish together. Now you may have to use your pliers or your needle nose, whatever you've got, just to squash them together, just to make it nice and neat. And we continue, hope you can see this, we continue round like so, trying to get it as neat as possible, which is not too bad at the moment, it's looking alright. But as you're doing this, because we've already put the flux on the wire frame, it's also rubbing the flux off onto the copper wire. So I'm just going to press them together a little bit. That's it, bringing it nice and tight. Couple more wraps. That's about it, and then you're onto that single leg. So we'll now cut it off there, like so, and we'll just bring it round, and I'll do the same with this side. Just trim that off there and just tuck it in. Whoops, tuck it in with the pliers if we can, like so. So just check the other side, that's looking pretty good. So now we just stick a little bit more flux on over the top, like so. Probably a little bit too much there, so I'll just bring it around a little bit with my fingers. A little bit messy, but still. Okay, so now we're ready to do the actual soldering. Again, I'm going to clean the soldering iron. Just give that a little dab with the wire brush. I'm going to get my sponge ready because you'll see what I'll do with that in a second. And pull off some solder, ready to go. We'll put a little bit of solder onto our iron, like so. This also helps transfer the heat. So if I put the iron underneath, try not to breathe in the fumes. There we go, it's starting to melt. So keep the heat on, keep it moving. Like so. Pull a bit more solder off. I can see some areas at the back that haven't quite got it. Now it looks quite black and tarnished at the moment, but when we're happy with it, like so, that's pretty well soaked. Quick action, we get the sponge and we give it a brush over with the sponge. Now watch it because it will try and flick off at this stage. And believe you me, it's quite hot. Now all we have to do, still warm, use the wire brush and just give it a little dab. And you can see it's already starting to clean up nicely. And that's it. There's nothing else to it. If I can show you, obviously we spend a little more time cleaning up, but when we turn it over, you can see a nice joint there. It's still hot. Same on the other side. Hope we've got this in the camera. I'll try and show you there. Both sides. Oops. Try and zoom in a little bit. So it's quite neat. All we've got to do now is give those undercarriage legs a wash off, and then obviously we'll be painting that up when we paint the rest of the undercarriage legs. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you for the later editions when we'll be finishing the model off. So thanks for watching. Bye.